My son wanted an inductive charger for his phone in his Ford Focus ST. That created a problem. We had gotten a Hardwire kit, but it only did 1 amp, and he needed 2 amps for the inductive charger. So what we did was a compromise. We used the cable he had and ran it up and over the molding, popped the side molding so we were able to get it out and run the wire over the steering wheel without it being seen. And then we could get it under the kick plate. There's one retaining nut that pops out, pulls in, and we didn't have to take off the panel. We were just able to thread the panel to get the wire out. There is a hole in the plastic right next to the shift lever, so we're able to run the wire through that hole to prevent friction of the brake lever against the wire. And then we could run it to the 12-volt outlet, which will have his USB adapter in it, so that it's a compromise, but it'll have his 2 amps and he can still plug in a second USB with 1 amp with that outlet. So interesting. And while we have the cigarette lighter out, we're going to hardwire a radar detector and bring the wire out up on top where the turbo gauges are. Okay, now the side panel, which is back in place, just took a panel remover, just pries right off and then snaps back in. And now we'll have to put the foam stripping back around the door, the door seal back in place, and the inductive charger will be all set. It was a little trickier, but we were able to find a path with a snake to fish the wires for the E-Prance camera we're going to have in the car and the Escort radar detector. And they're going to come out by the turbo gauges. So we had popped that panel, found a pathway, and brought it out on the driver's side of the dashboard, and we will bring it up the same place we ran the cable for the micro USB to power the telephone. So we'll show you all that in just a couple minutes. It was a little tricky fishing through, but if you go from the top down through the side, you can bring it out on the side of the console without much difficulty. Now, the radar detector and the camera have the cables coming out from under the gauge console, and there's room to maneuver. We will probably neaten them up by putting a cable cover over them, but we may have to change the wiring for the radar detector shortly to put in a remote control on it. So we're going to leave it like this for now, but basically nice and neat, and now we're going to hook up the power and see if everything works. Okay, we're all done. We're all done. The phone charger is working. Okay, and that comes back to here. Okay, wired in nicely. And the video camera and the passport, well, if I can get them in focus. There we go. And the video camera and passport both came on. Now the problem is when you open the key, that turns on the live ignition, so that everything goes on when you turn on the key. And on this, since we use the 12-volt power adapter, convenience outlet, there's a 30-minute lag time for everything to shut down. So we may very well look for a fuse and run a new wire to down power these when we get out of the car instantaneously. I didn't realize, this is my son's car, he told me the power goes off when the key's out. He didn't tell me it took a half hour for it to go off, so we just tagged it on to the 12-volt outlet. And now we may move it. Now that we know what we're doing, it should be a very easy job to add a 12-volt line. So there you have it. Very neat and easy. All came down the kick plate on the driver's side. Okay, and the panels pop open. This panel we were able to lift out of the way. We did not take it off, but the side panels pop out very easily. Okay, all you need is a little pry tool to get them off, and the same for the cup holder. And there you have it. So there you have it. A nice, neat job. And all the wires are now neatly tucked out of the way. By the way, this wire coming out by the brake is not in contact with the brake. There is a hole in the plastic under there that it's run through. So it looks like they may be rubbing, but they are not. So, if you pop that rubber panel, you will see what I'm talking about, and you don't have to worry about wear to the cable. For the micro USB adapter, we use this EDO 5-volt micro USB. It has a 1.2 amp output, and that was part of our problem. This works well for the E-Prance camera, but according to my son, he needed a 2 amp for the inductive charger, and that's why we went with the plug-in USB adapter, since that put out the 2 amps he needed. And online, the hardwired version of the 2 amp version did not get good reviews. So that's why the project took a little longer today than we otherwise would have thought, because we had to keep shifting gears, and we were making things up as we went along and had to keep changing plans. The hardwire kit for the escort or passport radar detector was a pretty standard wiring harness that's available on Amazon, and we will be changing it. He would like the remote so he can mute it on the road. It's a long reach in the focus, so we will probably be splicing that in shortly, as well as possibly changing the hardwire so that it will power down immediately instead of having to wait a half hour for everything to power down. Okay, so there you go.